Sir, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so we'll talk about duality. So suppose that we are given one problem, that is minimize C transpose X subject to Ax greater than equal to B, X greater than equal to 0. That is called the primal problem. Okay. So the dual problem, there is another problem that is related to this one. How it is related, we'll tell that, and that will be maximize Y transpose B subject to the same A, but you will write Y transpose A less than equal to C transpose and Y greater than equal to 0. So these two are related problem. We'll tell that this set, the feasible set for the primal problem, this will denote by TP. Similarly, this set will denote by the set of all y's that satisfy this, that is called TD. And similarly, this one is the dual objective function, this one is the primal objective function. Okay. What is the difference? Difference is that the primal problem is a problem in Rn, and the dual problem is a problem in Rm. Okay, assuming A is m by n. Okay, fine. What is about this? Okay, let me take one example. One simple example is given over here. So let me write that down. Suppose I have minimize C transpose X. So C transpose is like 2 1, X is X1 X2 subject to AX. A is just single row, X1 X2 greater than equal to B. B just because A is single row, so just one element. Xi greater than equal to 0, I am not writing. The dual will be maximize B transpose Y. So B transpose is 2 and Y, so that is 2Y only, subject to Y transpose A. So that is Y into A less than equal to C transpose, which is 2 1. So that basically means Y is less than equal to 2, Y is less than equal to 1, Y greater than equal to 0. That's the dual. Okay. Now suppose I want to write the equivalent of this one. See, the equivalent of this one, if we want to write the equivalent problem, will be something like minimize, maximize fx is minimize minus fx, so minus 2y subject to, let me write this way, 1 1 y transpose is was single element, so just y less than equal to 2 1, y greater than equal to 0. And once it is a minimization problem, I can try to write the dual of this one. So this one's dual will be maximize, it is y transpose B, so that is y I have used, so I will use x transpose B. B is this one, huh? Right now this is B. Oh, sorry, I have not written, I should not write this one, I should write minus 1, so minus 1 1 y greater than equal to minus 2 minus 1, that way. I have to write it in that format. Okay, so it is maximize y transpose B. So here y is used, so I will use x transpose B. So that is x1 x2, and B is 2 1 with a minus sign. subject to x1, x2 multiplied by the matrix, which is 1, 1 with a minus sign, and it is less than equal to C transpose. So here C transpose is minus 2. So that itself is equivalent to minimize 2x1 plus x2 subject to x1 plus x2 greater than equal to 2. So which is the primal problem? This is the primal problem. Okay, so what you have shown now, if you take the dual, so this was the dual, write again in the minimization form. Okay, that is the equivalent, which is this one. This one's dual is this. So that basically shows the dual of the dual is a primal. Is the primal. Okay. So what I have not said yet. So here it shows. So if one LPP is written in some other format rather than minimize C transpose X greater than equal to B, if it is not written in that format, then you can convert it to that format and then write the dual. Okay, fine. What about this dual? Now, for this dual, so this is the proof how you write in general, no problem. The dual functional value, okay, is always lesser than equal to the primal functional value. That is what it says. What is the dual functional value? Now, dual functional value at what? Now, at any point. So suppose I have y naught belongs to TD and x naught belongs to TP. So this is a primal feasible point, y naught is a dual feasible point. Then what it says? It says FD y naught. FD y naught is what? Now this is equal to y naught transpose B. This one. And this is greater than equal to y naught transpose A x naught, because x naught belongs to TP. Okay. And the primal problem, x naught is a primal feasible problem. It means A x naught is greater than equal to B, right? That is here. That is here. Ax is greater than equal to B. So that's what it is. Okay. And so, Ari, I am writing the wrong one. Ax naught is greater than equal to B, right? And then y transpose A is less than equal to C transpose. So this is less than equal to C transpose x naught, and this is equal to FP x naught. So what it says now, imagine the primal feasible set. At that point, any point, you choose any point and evaluate the primal feasible function. That will be greater than equal to the dual feasible function evaluated at any point in the dual feasible set. That's what it says. Okay. Fine. So what does it mean? It means if at some point x naught and some point y naught, they are both equal, then that would mean that y naught is a dual maximum solution and x naught is a primal minimum solution. Why y naught is a dual maximum solution? Now look. FD of any y, okay, is always less than equal to FP of x naught. That you just proved. And what you have found? Now I have found found a y naught such that FD of y naught is equal to fp of x naught, which is attaining that value. So which in that case y naught must be a maximum solution of f dy, the function f dy. Okay. That is fine, no problem. So here is the important relation why you are considering primal dual theorem, or rather the primal dual problem. So it is given by the primal dual theorem. What it says, suppose the minimum solution for the primal is attained. Suppose this, then it says, then the maximum solution of the dual problem is also attained and they have the same value. Actually, it is if and only if. So it says the minimum solution for the primal is, exists if and only if maximum solution for the dual exists, and when they exist, they both have the same value. So in this way, sometimes if you want to solve the primal problem, that is as good as solving the dual problem. Okay. So suppose the minimum solution for the primal is attained. Okay, so the minimum solution exists. Well, if the minimum solution exists, and since you have a polyhedron, okay, the set is a polyhedron which is bounded below. Okay, set is a primal, this thing is a polyhedron because it is written like x greater than equal to b, bounded below because x is greater than equal to 0. So it basically says the minimum solution exists. So remember fundamental theorem, it would say that the minimum solution is attained at a vertex. Okay, so in that case, the minimum solution is attained at a vertex. Vertex of what? Which set? Now this particular set. Vertex of this set we have named as TP, so we'll say TP, no problem. Okay. Vertex, I will call it W. Fine. Acha. Now this set I will write as a tilde x greater than equal to b tilde. Okay, so that way I can write this particular set as the set of all x such that a identity x is greater than equal to b 0. So it is written as a tilde x greater than equal to b tilde. So this is our a tilde x greater than equal to b tilde. I can write it this way. Fine, no problem. So what you have now, you have minimize C transpose X subject to A tilde X greater than equal to B tilde, and that minimization is attained at a vertex W. Well, I already know in that case by Farkas lemma. What do I know? Now I already know in that case C transpose must be a non-negative combination of the rows of A tilde W. So this basically means there exists a non-negative vector lambda such that, so this is your, there exists, I should say here let me write it here, there exists lambda greater than equal to 0. This is a vector, huh? Okay, so this happens. Fine. Now in that case, this is equal to, you can extend, see, a tilde w is what? Now a tilde w is a submatrix of a tilde, and we choose those rows which satisfies the equality over here, that a tilde x greater than equal to b tilde. When I substitute w, I see which one satisfy equality. That is what it is. So what you do, you extend lambda by putting some extra 0 entries to lambda tilde, and you just keep it not w, but take the whole matrix. So extend this to lambda tilde. Okay, that is fine. And then you take the whole matrix here. Put the additional this thing. Okay, but then this is equal to what is a tilde? A tilde is obtained, like a tilde has two parts. One is a, one is I, right? So this is equal to the part of lambda tilde corresponding to a, that transpose multiplied by a, plus the part of lambda tilde corresponding to I, and then multiplied by I. And since lambda tilde vector is non-negative, lambda was greater than equal to 0, and I have added few more 0 entries. So this is greater than equal to lambda tilde a transpose multiplied by a. So this, you take y is equal to lambda tilde transpose, this lambda tilde a transpose a. Then what? Now then y transpose a is less than equal to C transpose, and y is greater than equal to 0. So what I have found? Now suppose the minimum solution for the primal is attained, then it is attained at a vertex, and then somehow I have found one element y in the dual feasible set, okay, satisfying the condition that y transpose a less than equal to C transpose, y is greater than equal to 0. Now all I have to show is that the dual objective function value is the same as the primal objective function value. So what is that I have to show? I have to show y transpose b. Okay, now y transpose b, I somehow have to show that it is equal to C transpose W. Okay, fine. Now y is greater than equal to 0. Okay, so this is equal to what I have written, and this is lambda tilde a transpose, okay, b. Okay, this is equal to lambda tilde transpose b tilde. Now why you are writing this? Now look, see this b tilde vector. If you see the b tilde vector, you see b tilde vector actually let me write why they are same. And look, B tilde vector has two parts. One is on the top part is B and the bottom part is 0. So whatever is the second part, okay, let me write this here. Let me explain it here. See, lambda tilde transpose A and lambda tilde transpose I. This is your lambda tilde transpose. And then you have B tilde. When you multiply B tilde is B and 0. So this one, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It is getting multiplied by 0. So I am writing it as this. Okay. So this is lambda tilde transpose B tilde. And then let me write this is equal to lambda transpose B tilde W. Now why is that? Now you remember you extended lambda to lambda tilde by putting extra zeros at the other places. So those zeros will not contribute anything. What will remain is this much only. Okay. And what is B tilde W? No. B tilde W is the vector where the identity was satisfied. So this is equal to lambda transpose A tilde W multiplied by W. That was B tilde W. Right. And but then look at this. This is C transpose W. And that is nothing but FP of W. Yeah, that's true. So this is FD of Y. So we have found in that case the equality that we first showed that there exists a Y in the dual feasible set, and the value dual feasible value, dual objective value at that point is equal to the primal objective value at W. And hence it follows that by the previous observation, it follows that Y that is equal to lambda tilde A transpose is a dual maximum. Okay, so once you assume that the primal has a minimum solution, you showed that the dual has a maximum solution. Now suppose you assume the dual has a maximum solution, then you convert the maximum solution to, I mean, maximum problem to a minimum problem, and then by applying this one, you will show the primal has a minimum solution. Okay, so the converse is routine. Okay, trivial. Converse is, I mean, so the same argument again. Repeat the same argument. Okay, fine. Here are some quick recap of. Oh, by the way, we'll have quiz Sunday 4 to 5. Okay, remember this. We'll have quiz 1. This is coming Sunday. Our time is 4 to 5, 1 hour. Okay, and it will have some subjective this thing. Question will be uploaded at maybe 3:55 or something like that, and you write your answer, take photograph and upload it by 4:05. Upload means you send it to me via email. Okay, Write your answers in some A4 size papers, take photograph, send it to me by email. Email reaches to me after 405, then at least in last semester, I did not consider any of the this thing. So remember that by 405, you have to, send it to me. Okay. Here are the any questions?
Sir, syllabus?
Syllabus is like up to Friday, whatever I teach. 10 lectures. Today is 8, 9, 10 lectures. Okay.
Sir, in the time you mean by 505, right? Like 355 to.
Right. 505. This means this is 505. So exam time is 4 to 5. 5 minutes previous, 5 minutes early, I will be uploading the question paper, and I will give 5 minutes to like take your photograph and take the photograph of your answer scripts, whatever you have written, and send it to me by email. Okay, maybe if 5 minutes is small, maybe I will like to let me put it to 5:10. Okay, by chance if you are like, you can use 5 extra minutes, no problem, but by 5:10 it should reach me, otherwise I will not consider. Once I am setting a rule, and then after that I myself cannot go back on that. Okay, remember that, please remember that, and then do not request me anything. Once we agree to a rule, I will have to follow it. Okay. Okay, so here are some quick recap of what we have done till now. We talked about convex combination, we talked about convex hull, we talked about what is vertex, we talked about hyperplanes, we talked about separating hyperplanes, okay, half spaces, we talked about cones, then we talked about minimizing linear functions over a convex set. Okay, so we also talked about how a bounded polyhedron is a polytope, and a polytope of course is a bounded polyhedron. That was the big theorem. Okay, by doing what? Now, by doing the polar dual. A bounded polyhedron is a polytope. That was easy because once you have a polyhedron, as soon as we showed that polyhedron has only finitely many vertices, so non-empty bounded polyhedron has to be a polytope by Krein-Millman theorem. So that was no problem. The other side was a little bit longer, so that we showed. Then we talked about the fundamental theorem of linear programming problem, and we said if we have written a set AX greater than equal to B format and W is a vertex, which linear functions will be minimized at W? And then you said, oh, okay, this will be the non-negative combinations of rows of AW. Okay, that is the point number 12. Okay. Now, whatever we have done till now, based on that, one can think about an algorithmic procedure of how to find a minimum solution. All we have realized, the minimum solution, if it is going to be attained, it is going to be attained at vertices only. And since our feasible set is a polyhedron, there will be finitely many vertices. Somehow somebody has to devise some tests. So how to test whether I am at a vertex? Second, how to test if I am at a vertex, whether that is a minimal vertex or not, how to test that? And if it is not a minimal vertex, in what modification, in what way I should move to get another vertex? See, that those things can be done, then in about finitely many steps I will be reaching the minimum solution. So that is the idea behind the simplex algorithm. So from now on, what I will be doing, we will be considering sets where we will have A is an m by n matrix and rank A equal to m. So it has full row rank. Now why are you doing like this? Like I said, look, if somebody has given you a system Ax equal to B, okay, and it's a consistent system, what is the point of having some superfluous equations in there? The physical set will not change. Imagine the set. So basically what it is saying, it is saying that you are looking at the set of non-negative solutions of the system Ax equal to B. Now if that system is consistent, like if you want to get the solutions, those superfluous equations, they will not contribute anything. So an equation which is a linear combination of the other equations, you can immediately throw them out. So by throwing them out, throwing those extra unnecessary equations out, you still are looking at the set will not change. The physical set of points x, that will not change. Okay. So in view of that, you can always assume rank of A equal to m. Okay. Of course, I mean, this like there is one more reason that I have written, but don't bother, you can read it. Okay, so now I am talking about, so when you require three things. One, like we should devise some method, some test, so that the computer will recognize what is a vertex, whether this point is a vertex or not. Second, so that will be obtained by testing the basic feasible solution. Okay, they will be actually vertices. I will tell what are they. Now suppose you have here, you have a matrix A, you are looking at a system Ax equal to B, where A is some kind of this matrix and B is this matrix, this vector Ax equal to B. So that is the equation what you are writing now. This equation is like something like x1 plus x3 equal to 1 and x2 plus x4 equal to 1. That's the set of equations. So I have just written in this format. Fine. Okay, the matrix is written. Now I will say what is a basis matrix for this. Now look, given a matrix A, this matrix A, and A has rank 2, full row rank. Okay, fine. I will always assume that part. In fact, I will be mentioning, but for our discussion, we will be assuming that for quite a bit of time. Now, select any column. Okay, select any. Right now, rank is 2. So select any two columns such that they are linearly independent. For example, you can select x1 and you can select x2. Then you say x1, x2 is a basis and the basis matrix is, first you write the column for x1, so that is 1 0. Then you write the column for x2, that is 0 1. This is the basis matrix. You can also write x2, x1 is a basis, and then the basis corresponding basis matrix will be, first you will write the column for x2, then you write the column for x1. Okay, this is ordered. Okay, this is also basis matrix. So in that is how you write your basis matrix. And suppose I write x1, x3. Now x1, x3, those two columns are not, the corresponding columns are not linearly independent, and so I will write it is not a basis. Okay, so in general, an ordered tuple like xi1, xi2, xim is called a basis if this matrix is non-singular. It is an m by m matrix If it is non-singular, then it is called a basis matrix. And in fact, these columns form the basis for the column space of A. Okay. Column space sometimes is also known as the range. Okay, fine. Elements of basis are called basic variables. Okay, so for example, if you are considering these two, in this case, x1 comma x2 are basic variables. x3 and x4 are non-basic variables. You can write other bases also here. For this example, let me see. I can take x4 comma x1. This is a basis because the basis matrix over here is 0 1 1 0. This is the fourth column of A and this is the first column of A. Okay, and here the basic variables are x1 x4. It is better you write x4 x1. It doesn't matter. I mean, in what way you are writing here, it is unordered way. What are the basic variables? Tell their names. So in what order you are telling the names, that doesn't matter. But when you are writing here, this is an ordered tuple. What is the first basis vector? What is the second basis vector? So that way. Okay. Okay. Once you have considered a basis, okay, so for example, the same A and same B I have written, okay, same system. Suppose I am considering the basis x1 x2. Okay, once you have said that, for any 4-dimensional, so the matrix is m by n. Okay, so for any n-dimensional vector, by saying y of b, I mean, so y of b would mean y of first basis vector, so that is x1, and y of second basis vector, that is x2. Okay, and then what is C? Now here the basis matrix is this one. This is the basis matrix. Okay, because I have taken x1 x2. Like sometimes for the other one it will be rotated, I mean interchanged. But by saying C, I mean the remaining of the matrix. So C stands for this portion, okay, for this particular basis. And so YC, so YB is equal to 0 1, that is the first element, the second element, this is this, and then YC is the corresponding subvector of Y corresponding to capital C. Capital C is the remaining part, and in that order itself, so it will be 1 0. But if I take the basis, let's say I take the basis equal to x4 x1, this is my basis. Okay, then what will be YB? Now YB will be, first you will have to write what is the fourth entry. Now fourth entry is 0, and the first entry, now the first entry is 0. Okay, that will be YB. And what will be YC over here? Now YC will be, so here the basic variables are x4 x1, so that is how you will write, and YC will be the remaining 1 1. That's how it is. Okay, so once you have decided on a basis matrix, the submatrix formed by deleting those columns, okay, from A is C, and then the subvector of Y corresponding to that C is YC. Okay, so here for example I have written, if it is visible, yeah, so it is for x2 x1. For x2 x1 you have, this is column 2 0 1 1 0, column 1. YB, look, YB, so first entry is y2, y of x2, so that's like second 1 0. YC, well, YC is after deleting 1, 2, whatever is remaining, that is it, 1, 0, in that order itself. You see that those examples carefully, huh? Okay. How do you solve a system AX equal to B? Now, like by Gaussian elimination, by what? But you can also solve it a little more effectively if I know that A has rank M. A is M by N and has rank M. Now what? Now look, if I write AX equal to B, this is my system. And suppose that I know I have a basis matrix B. Sometimes I will simply say basis, but mostly basis matrix. Basis is that order tuple. So, but these are related. In that case, this system can be written this way: B times XB. See, this is why XB was ordered. See, when I said B can be like can have columns here and there. So in the same order, the XB is written plus C times XC, that is equal to B. Okay, this C matrix is the remaining part of A. Oh, by the way, I am not using B bar or something like that. That bar thing was happening if over here. If I had this was something like AW, this side was AW bar. This was the bar thing. Right now we are having something like this. Okay, this side is B and this side is C. Okay, so like that was the column style, this was the row style. Okay. Okay. And what do I know? Now I know because B is basis matrix, this is invertible. So this basically means XB is equal to B minus C XC multiplied by B inverse. Okay, so then it basically says, oh, by the way, if you apply rank nullity theorem, the matrix A is M by N, and you are trying to solve AX equal to B. Okay. And suppose it has a solution. So suppose that it is consistent. Then what dimensional structure you will get? The solution will be the solution to this is an affine subspace. Okay, affine subspace. The solution to this is an affine subspace of what dimension? Now this will be of the dimension of nullity. Okay, so for example, instead of B, if I take 0, it basically means it is the null space. Null space will have dimension of what? Now n minus m, that is. And if I take B, so it is a translation of that null space. Okay, like remember the general solution is a particular solution of X equal to B plus the homogeneous solution, that means the null space. Okay, so it is a translation of the null space. So it is an affine n minus m dimensional subspace. So it basically means XC. So what is the size of XC? The size of XC is n minus m only. Okay, so you choose any, you take any vector XC, substitute, and then you get XP. So then in that case, you get your solution. So for any choice of XC, you will get a XB, and that is your choice. That is your solution. So you take XC equal to U1, that is 1 0 0 0 0. You get 1 XB. So that gives you one solution. Take XC equal to 0 1 0 0 0. You get another solution. Take XC equal to 0 0 1 0 0 0. You get another solution. All right, of n minus m, you got n minus m different solutions. So fine, that is your they are linearly independent solutions, because xc part they are becoming linearly independent. So that is it. They give you the complete solution of the system x equal to b. So for example, here let me say this one. Okay, suppose you have taken the basis to be x2 x1. So basis to be x2 x1, in that case what you are writing, the basis matrix is 0 1 1 0 multiplied by xb. What is your xb? Now xb is equal to x2 x1. You see how it is actually giving you ax equal to b. So this is plus, what is the C matrix? Now C matrix is 1 0 0 1 multiplied what is xc? Now xc is equal to x3 x4. This is your system. This is equal to 1 1. So what was the equation over here? The first equation was x1 plus x3 equal to 1, and the second equation was x2 plus x4 equal to 1. Are you getting the same thing over here? Now if you multiply this, I get x1 x2, and here I get x3 x4, and I get 1 1 over here. It is the same style of writing. Okay, so therefore if I want to get one solution y by taking like yc equal to 1 2, then I compute this and get this. You just get this. So that is your y solution. So in that case y will be so yb I got -1 0, but remember yb means y2 y1, so I wrote 0 here. This is y1, this is y2, whatever whatever yc I took, that's the solution. Okay. So what are basic solutions? Now in this way, if you substitute xc equal to 0, completely 0, you will get some xb. Such a solution will be called a basic solution. Okay, by substituting xc equal to 0, suppose that you have a basis. Okay, it is a basis matrix. If you substitute xc equal to 0, so it will follow that xb is equal to b inverse b. So then this will be called a basic solution. A basic solution may have some negative entries also. It doesn't matter, whatever is b inverse b, it comes out to that. So if all the entries of the basic solution are non-negative, then it is called a basic feasible solution. Solution of what? Now of the system ax equal to b. We are only talking about solutions of the system ax equal to b, where a is m by n and the rank is m given, full row rank given. Okay. If you have a basic feasible solution, but some basic variables are having zeros as values, then you call it a degenerate solution. Otherwise, if all the basic variables are non-zero, then you call it a non-degenerate solution. Okay, if all of them are positive. For example, you take this. Okay, so suppose that I am looking at the basis x5 x6. So in that case, what is capital B? Now in that case, capital B is equal to x5 x6. This is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So this is x5, this is x6. So capital B is -1 0 0 1. Okay, so in that case, what is xb? Now xb is obtained as like b inverse b by putting x equal to 0. It turns out that actually the this thing is B inverse B minus C XC, but then the C matrix, whatever it is, doesn't matter, but XC vector is 0. So it is actually B inverse B. Now B inverse B, if I take the inverse of this, so B inverse B will turn out to be minus 2, 3. Okay, this will be XP. XC is 0. So then what is the solution X I got? Now solution X I got is everything is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Only X5 is minus 2. So 0, 0, 2, 3, 4. X5 is minus 2. X6 is 3. X7 is 0. This is the solution that I got. So this is a basic solution, fine, but not feasible. This is basic solution, not feasible. Because there are some entries which are negative. Okay, fine. Let me take another one. I take X1, X7. Now X1, X7. Okay, fine. What is B? Now B is the first column and the 7th column. Okay, fine. And then what will be B inverse B? So this is XB, that is equal to B inverse B. Now what will be B inverse B? Now B inverse B will be 0, 1. Huh? Why? Now array you multiply this with B, now you will get 2, 3 only. B is invertible, so that's how it will give you a unique solution. Okay, fine. This is 0, 1. So what is your X? Now X is, so what is X1, X7? I have taken. The first one is 0. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. And then 7th one is 1. Is this basic solution? Basic solution. I just substituted X equal to 0. Basic feasible solution. It is everything is greater than equal to 0. Degenerate or non-degenerate? Now this one is degenerate because here is a basic, the value of X1. So this is degenerate, value of X1. Is 0. Okay. Similarly, you can consider this thing. Acha, by the way, if I had taken X2, X7 basis, I would have also got the same physical point. Okay, the same physical point. So one single vertex, I mean vertex, I will have to show it is actually a vertex, but nevertheless the same solution of the system X equal to B may be obtained via 2 different bases. Okay, by taking the basis X1, X7, whatever point you reach, whatever solution you reach, by taking another basis, I am reaching the same. Okay, so by taking that, okay, no problem. So that is the fact highlighted over here. Now the first thing is, given a solution, how do I recognize that it is even a basic feasible solution? How will I recognize? Now this test is very simple. You have to see whether the solution is all greater than equal to 0. Okay, the solution W is a BFS of X equal to B if and only if W is non-negative, and wherever W is positive, remember, if it has come by substituting some XC equal to 0, then the only entries of the positive entries of this must be corresponding to the basis, and therefore the corresponding columns have to be linearly independent. So that is what it says. Okay, W is non-negative and columns of A corresponding to the positive entries of W are linearly independent. The proof is very trivial, you read it. Let me do this one. Okay, let me tell this one a little bit. A BFS means a vertex. Okay, so suppose that W is a BFS of X equal to B. Fine. You want to show what? Now W is a vertex of this polyhedron. See, by saying BFS, it is entry wise greater than equal to 0. So I want to say W is a polyhedron of this. How do you show W is a vertex of the polyhedron? Now, vertex of a polyhedron I can only test if I write it in the form Ax greater than equal to B or Ax less than equal to B. So for this, I will write this as A minus A, Ax, because Ax is equal to B, you write it identity. X is greater than equal to B minus B and 0. So the first two will amount to X equal to B. Second, the third one will amount to X greater than equal to 0. So I have written something of the form X such that A tilde X greater than equal to B tilde. I have written in this form, and I want to test whether W is a vertex of this. Now, the test is already known. All you have to do is you take A tilde W and see whether it has rank N or not. Now, what is A tilde W? A tilde W I will have to take. What is A tilde W? Now you substitute in place of X, you substitute W and see which rows are satisfying. Now my claim is that since W is a point of already a point of this, W satisfies A W equal to B, so it will contain A. It will also contain minus A because both of them will satisfy equality, and then it will be some part of identity. Okay, so for that, let me write, since you have said W is a BFS, what is its basis matrix? Now let me, for simplicity, let me write this is the basis matrix and this is C. A I am writing B, C. Okay, B for basis matrix, C for remaining. So I have minus B minus C. And what happens, which entries, because it is a basic feasible solution, which entries are definitely 0? Now WC are definitely 0. So what will be satisfied? Now this will be satisfied. This is definitely AW. Okay, at least contains this much. Actually AW definitely contains this. Okay, and does this have rank N? Well, this has rank N because this is identity N minus M. Okay, this much, and B has rank M. So if you are looking at this this upper triangular matrix BC0I, this has rank N, and so I am getting rank AW is actually not this, because some other entries also, some other parts, other entries of identity, that also can be 0. So at least it includes AW. You can write includes instead of this includes. If I have written equality in the proof, you please correct this. This includes at least this much it contains, and since rank is N, so it follows that rank AW. So this will imply rank AW, A tilde W is N, and so W is a vertex. The converse is similar. It is done by this one. A is equal to this, and for simplicity, where ADX I have written like this. Okay, here I have not even written what is that AW. Here I have just written this way. Okay, so I will stop here. The other part of the proof you I will do in the next class. Maybe I will do in the next class. So let me stop here. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, as you said that we have our first quiz on Sunday, there's Raksha Bandhan on Sunday. So can you reschedule the quiz?
Oh,
Maybe postpone.
postpone to what?
Um,
Like, see, the Monday, Tuesday will again be classes,
yes, sir.
and then Wednesday. By that time, further you will be concentrated, so you will not be able to concentrate. Either Sunday is a right time, or otherwise, I mean, it will be next Sunday, or I don't know. But by that time, a lot of material will be covered. This is more suitable. But I mean, your concern is also fine. I mean, what to do? Shall I take it to Thursday or something?
First day as in?
Thursday, and that will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I really do not know. See, I think Sunday is more suitable. Once everybody agrees, it is fine.
Sir, we have to travel on Sunday because of Raksha Bandhan, sir, like many people.
Then
So you are proposing for Thursday, right?
you propose a day, na? You first you propose a day.
Okay, so what we can do is like our BR will float a form, and whatever majority of the student will be comfortable with, can we schedule the quiz on that day?
And let me know by tomorrow.
Yeah,
or
sure.
maybe, okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.